Welcome to AEF TV, and I'm joined now by Jasandra and Nyker from BioTherm Energy. And Jasandra, firstly, thank you for taking the time to be here.
You're welcome.
And busy 2.5 days now off the show. And we're talking a little bit off air about the subject of renewables and the role that renewables have to play as a mix within generation, and you're particularly involved in what's happening in South Africa.
That's correct.
So tell me a little bit about how you see the role of renewables, and then I've got a couple of other questions following on from that.
So I see renewables as a necessity as part of the energy mix. It needs to definitely be part of it. The advantage of renewables is that it is modular and it's scalable and therefore much easier to deploy. If you look at the South African environment, we're likely to deploy about 1 gigawatt of power coming from renewables over the next 2 years.
And when you're talking renewables, you're talking wind and solar?
I'm talking wind and solar.
Right.
There is a bit of biomass in that, as well as some hydro, but it's predominantly wind and solar, and CSP, which adds to it as well.
And how are you seeing the South African government announced an initiative, we want X amount of generation from renewables. So
yes.
That announcement in itself creates a marketplace, because you need to then achieve that. How are you seeing other countries looking at that and going, oh, we'd like to do that? And what conditions do you need to have in place as a company who would then invest into those companies? What do you like to see in place?
Okay. I think let's take a step back and talk about South Africa's program and a quick overview. That is driven by demand and the fact that a certain amount of supply needs to be online by a certain period of time. So when the government announces a 3.2 gigawatt program, they're looking to, well, when can that actually come online? So what that then results in is a timetable and a speed to getting to that end point. And as a result of which, it allowed for a very well-regulated environment, but at the same time, an environment that was controlled from a timing perspective in order to ensure that things actually happened. I think that is necessary across all of Africa in order for renewables to really kick off, because what it's done is that it's actually allowed us to be focused in our approach and also in some way guarantee that if we are successful from a bidding perspective, we will actually bid within a certain period of time, construct within a certain period of time, and then connect to the grid.
So what you're saying is that let's say another country wants to go down this road, they need to have that set time frame in place, because then from a commercial point of view, you guys can plan. You know that, okay, in 3 years' time a decision will get made.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, if it's open-ended, you're just running around constantly bidding.
And therefore it becomes much more costly to do so. And you also need a well-regulated environment. If you look at the renewable energy program in South Africa, it was very well regulated, very well thought through in terms of what the requirements were and what government actually wanted to get out of it.
And what other countries are you seeing looking at South Africa and saying, right, okay, well, we will do something similar?
We've seen it happen in Rwanda, Zambia, Mauritius as initial examples of having a program or a tender-based program whereby people bid in a particular project and then gets evaluated and a decision is made. There are other countries in Africa who are doing it on a project-by-project basis, and the initiative is from the developer in order to go out and negotiate that. Whereas the South African program was regulated in terms of what the PPA needed to look like, etc., and effectively was rubber stamped to a large extent.
Yeah, and again, looking at the way the renewables economy and everything works, I suppose the other thing you need is you need that sort of feed-in tariff infrastructure to be in place as well. And
yeah, if not a feed-in tariff, South Africa is based on an auction-based, so it's a competitive bid. A feed-in tariff is definitely more attractive because it then allows and definitely accelerates and catalyzes the rate at which local content, local manufacturing comes into play, because there's a known quantum. If you are able to meet that tariff, you are then known that there's more security in it.
So because that was interesting, because we had a member of the Treasury from South Africa talking about that competitive bid thing. So it sounds to me like what happened was, okay, here's the envelope, we'd like the bids to be in, who can come in at the lowest.
Yeah.
Do you not think that there's a danger that someone says, yeah, we can do it at this price point, but they know it's unrealistic, and then you've got that scope creep element of it?
Yes, it's a definite risk, and it's very likely to happen as it becomes more competitive. I guess what one needs to then evaluate is whether one can actually deliver within that pricing structure or pricing regime, and what contingency they've actually placed on their particular bid.
And again, looking at opportunities around, because a lot of discussions here about different models and distributed models, centralized models, and so on. So there's one question that comes to my mind where, and this was in another interview at another event, not at this event, where people were talking about, okay, well, actually, providing electrification to communities need not be all about building a massive grid infrastructure.
Yes.
We can use renewables to build, let's say, micro localized generation for a community where the power consumption need actually is not, it's about charging the mobile phones, because actually a lot of stuff happens on mobile phones, and keeping the lights on a little bit longer so kids can do homework and things like that. Are you guys involved in those sort of projects?
Not on the micro programs.
Right.
And there's pros and cons to that. I do think those can work, and they'll be more effective if there are maintenance programs in place. What we've often seen, specifically across certain parts of Africa, is that modules get donated, they're stuck on roofs of schools or in a community, but the maintenance of it doesn't really happen because it was more of a donation rather than actually a program.
That's an interesting model. So you could go into a community and you could say, look, we'll do all of this as long as you can afford the maintenance on a monthly rate or whatever it is.
Because then it's sustainable. It's going to be there for the longer term. And you then have a community that is appreciative of it and supports it, as opposed to one that says, oh, you put up a solar panel and it's broken in a month.
Exactly.
So,
that was disappointing. It just works for a month. What a load of rubbish. So it's been great having you here, and we're coming to the end of our time. And I'm asking this of everybody, so put you on the spot a little bit, turn you into my roving reporter for the day. With the conversations you've had, what would you say has been, your highlight? As in, oh, it's great that this conversation is happening, or it's exciting to see this.
I have to say the Kenyan IPP discussion was great that it's happening. I'm really glad that that's taking place, and this is a great platform for it to happen. Just hope that it actually materializes much sooner. Well,
there's signs of that. There's signs of that.
Yes.
On that note, we'll leave it. And thank you for watching. It's AEF TV, and this is available on the AEF website, on Engerati, and obviously on NGNet as well. Thanks for watching.